Hi.
Thank you for coming in. We're going to do a short interview with you today. We want to know a little bit about you and about your band, Pinnacle, a little bit about how you all got started.
Oh, nice.
And where you've been transitioning to over these past, how many years have you been going?
We're going on 5 years. This coming April will be the 5th year anniversary. Well, April 1st. But it's
So how did this band come around to be created? What was the inception?
It hasn't been talked about much, but the origin of Pinnacle, it all started in October 2016. My uncle was wanting to get back into drumming and music, and I had just went through a bad breakup, and his girlfriend at the time had advised that he get back into music and pulled me aside and said, hey, you and him should, do something together and jam. So we talked about it November, December. Finally, it was around April 1st. We finally had our first practice together, and he wasn't sure how it would go because I was more of an 80s rock, hard rock guy, and he was more of a grunge, 90s rock kind of guy. But we got together and it hit it off. We wrote 2 songs the first day, just jamming together. And we jammed about a handful of times more, 2, 3. And one day we were in his blue room, where we would, like a living room, hanging out after a jam. He's like, well, I guess this means we need to find a bassist. So, meanwhile, I had been working at Sheets for 2 years with Sean Liller. And I'd been talking with Sean the first bit of 2017 about starting a other band called Lotus. Well, we were having trouble finding musicians for that other project. So once I knew that me and my uncle had chemistry and there was something there, I asked Sean if he would just come play bass for Pinnacle, and I scrapped the whole Lotus idea. And Sean joined about late April. We wrote our first song, Magic Touch, literally when we all met together, and we've been together since then. We've had a few people play with us over the years. Cody Martin and Mark Twig, they played on drums with us after Shane's passing, unfortunately. But right now, we have our second full-time lineup. Sean's actually playing drums and singing, and we have his younger brother Aaron as a full-time member now, playing bass and doing vocals. And it's a nice feeling. It feels like home, and it feels like family, which is something that hasn't felt like since the early days. So it's interesting.
Okay, very good. So, are all your songs you perform on stage, are these all originals?
When we started out, we wanted to go all originals, and we were told by some older, more experienced musicians, with the bar scene, if you want to play out, you're going to have to throw some covers in there. So for the live shows, we do about a 50-50 mix of originals and covers, but when we come here, we're not opposed to doing an all-original show sometimes either. But for a lot of venues, they want some covers, and it's interesting learning other people's music. You kind of learn things, and it almost shows you like their perspective into songwriting and how they did things, and it's a compare and contrast thing, because you may have your formula or what you're used to with doing it, but when you learn a cover, it's educating, and it kind of opens your mind some to it.
So when you think back of all the number of songs you've written and performed, what would you say was your first quote unquote hit, even though it may have not been a hit on the radio or on the top 10, whatever they call it these days? In your mind as a band, what's your premier song?
The best of the catalog, so to say.
Well, your very first.
Oh, the first good one.
The first good one that you would say, God, that was really darn good.
Well,
You say that for all your songs.
It depends who you ask. I would say Pinnacle, personally, our title song. That was the third original we had wrote. I had been playing the harmonic intro and all that stuff for a while, and then Sean actually had lyrics in his songbook that we put to it. When we played that one, it got some radio play in Morgantown on WCLG Homegrown. And I remember the first time they played it, right when we were done, the DJ was like, did someone send us a Van Halen song? And we were like, oh, like it was a huge honor to have that, and it was a special moment. So I'd say Pinnacle would probably be our first hit, I guess.
As you lay in bed at night, trying to go to sleep, and if you think about how Pinnacle, the band, has transitioned over time, and you look back over the last 5 years, how would you characterize that transition, and has the band evolved?
We have evolved, and it's non-constant or consistent. It's a little uneven. When we started out, I would say we were 70s hard rock sort of vibe. Like I mentioned, the Van Halen thing. That's 80s rock, that sort of vein of music. And then about 2019, 2020, we got heavier. We started doing more like early Metallica kind of flavored stuff. But then now currently, we're actually going more of the classic rock, AC/DC, kind of lighter route. So we went heavier, and then now we're actually going lighter. So we've kind of been all over the place. It's just it's a ebb and flow.
Tell us a little bit about the other members in your band currently.
Well, me and Sean, for example, we go back to Sheets and actually Boy Scouts as well. We were in Boy Scouts together. He sings, plays drums. He did bass and vocals. And for our song Pinnacle, you'll hear him on it. Drama Queen, She's a Killer. Those are some songs that feature his vocals. And he listens to more of the 60s stuff than I do. He's got a really good ear for the whole vocal stuff. I mean, because, Beatles is like his thing. Beatles and Rolling Stones. So he brings that chemistry to the table, and then I'm kind of in like the 80s rock. And then his younger brother, Aaron just kind of plays a bit of everything. He plays guitar, he plays bass, he does some drums, he does some piano, and he also does backup vocals. And the two of them together really have a chemistry, reminds me of me and my uncle. Just that two family members together, they're going to have a different kind of chemistry than, just two friends playing. So I see that with them. They're definitely a little more, I'd say, vintage than I am even. But when you get us together, we do this conglomeration of heavy stuff and 80s stuff, and I don't know where it comes from, it just happens.
Tell us a little bit about, we always like to know what the meaning of some of the lyrics are in songs. Everyone listens to a song, and if there's no specifics provided, we all in our own minds fill in the blanks. So there's a song called Heaven and Hell. Is that about something particular, or is that some general philosophical kind of introspective? What would you say?
Heaven or Hell was actually the last original Shane wrote with the band before his passing due to cancer. And Heaven or Hell was actually partially wrote. There was a mix of things that fueled it. The first inspiration was a girl he was dating at the time. But then as he started having health issues and whatnot, he started, at practice he would commonly say, am I in heaven or hell? Because he was talking about, the enjoyment of music and whatnot, and the hell of the pain from the cancer that at the time we didn't know what it was. And so he commonly say, am I in heaven or hell? And he actually wrote the song, he also wrote music for it as well. Because a lot of times, I'd bring music to the table, and then a singer would bring lyrics, and we'd kind of make it like a stew. We'd stir it all together. But Heaven or Hell was one he wrote a lot of, and he actually had the guitar part wrote. And when he presented it to the band, we were listening to it, and he's like, these are the chords, but I don't like the rhythm. And it sounded like Ted Nugent's Stranglehold, and none of us were very big Ted Nugent fans. So I was like, you know what, let me take the music home with me, and I'll rephrase it and whatnot. And I gave it some swing. My friend Logan calls it gronky. He says it's a very gronky song, so we put the gronk to it, and then it became Heaven or Hell. But that's how Heaven or Hell was kind of born. It has a deeper meaning behind it than people would think.
Sure, understandable, and that's the beauty of art. So I understand you have a new release.
Yes, Higher Power.
Tell us how would you characterize that song, and how is it radically different than the material you used to write, or is it the same? I mean, how would you characterize it from maybe your last hit song?
I would say not your average Christian rock. It's definitely something different. I would say it's a little more groovier than some of our stuff. Music-wise, it's got more fusion and kind of borrowing elements from 70s music and soul music and all that. It was actually one that I actually did lyrics for as well, which I don't sing, which is kind of bizarre. But over the past year, I was like, it'd be kind of cool to do something spiritual. I didn't want to do something too preachy, but I wanted to, something spiritual and uplifting, which would contrast what we had done, because we did a lot of heavy stuff about, all kinds of stuff. We wanted to do something lighter and happier and uplifting. So Higher Power was kind of my go at that. And I had wrote the lyrics, Higher Power, and I had the riff. I actually had the music all recorded out, all the tracks, the solos and everything. And I took it to Sean and gave it to him, and we kind of bounced ideas on how to phrase the vocals, and he just knocked it out of the park. And we recorded vocals and drums, and we had it mixed. It was one of our quickest mixes we did. I had the song mixed in about a month, mixed and mastered and ready to go. And we just released it February 12th of this year. And so far, it's done way better than anything else we have released. The likes on it are... No, we got our first start here. It was an Indio Mano Mike Night, March 2018. The drums were over in the corner, and we came. Shane was here. Sean was actually all dressed up. That was our first live performance as a group. And it was...
We always appreciate you coming back, and we look forward to seeing you again in March.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you, bud.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.